What if fire wasn't always an accident? What if it wasn't just lightning, heat, or human mistakes? What if sometimes it had wings? Picture a wide stretch of dry land under the Australian sun. The grass is brittle. The air is still. Everything looks calm, almost lifeless. Then, far away, smoke begins to rise. A wildfire has started, crawling slowly across the ground, eating dry grass inch by inch. Most animals panic. Kangaroos flee. Lizards vanish underground. Insects scatter in every direction. Fire means death. Fire means run. But high above the smoke, something else is happening. A dark shape circles calmly in the sky. Then another and another. Birds, not fleeing, not afraid, watching. One of them dives toward the edge of the fire, not into the flames, but close enough to feel the heat. For a split second, it disappears behind the smoke. Then it rises again. In its claws is something small, glowing, burning, a stick. The bird flies away from the fire. Not randomly, not in panic. It travels across open land, over untouched grass, and then, without hesitation, lets go. The burning stick falls. The grass catches. A new fire is born. Seconds later, animals burst from hiding, running straight into the open, and the birds descend. This sounds like a story from a myth, a legend told around campfires, a fantasy where animals think like humans and use tools like weapons. For a long time, that's exactly what people believed it was, just a story. But here's the problem. Firefighters have seen it. Rangers have reported it. Indigenous Australians have known about it for thousands of years. And now, scientists are being forced to admit something unsettling. Some birds don't just survive fire. They use it. They spread it. They plan around it. And once you understand that, you're left with a disturbing question. If a bird can learn to control fire for hunting, what else in nature is far smarter than we ever imagined? This is the story of the firehawks, and it changes everything we think we know about animals' intelligence and the power of fire. Fire has always been part of life on Earth. Long before cities, roads, or power lines, the land burned. Lightning struck dry grass. Volcanoes lit forests. Heat and wind did the rest. Fire is not an invader in nature. It is a cycle. In places like Australia, fire is especially common. The land is hot, dry, and flat in many regions. Grass grows fast during wet seasons, then dries into perfect fuel when the rains stop. One spark is enough. Because of this, fires have shaped the Australian landscape for millions of years. Plants evolved to survive burning. Some seeds only open after heat. Some trees regrow faster after fire than before it. Animals, too, learned how to live with fire. Most creatures follow simple rules when flames appear. Small animals hide underground or inside burrows. Reptiles squeeze into cracks in rocks. Larger animals run toward water or already burned ground. Birds usually escape into the sky and wait until the danger passes. Fire is something to endure, not something to fight or control. For a long time, scientists believed this rule applied to all animals. Fire was seen as too dangerous, too unpredictable. Even humans struggled to master it. It took us tens of thousands of years to learn how to control flames without being destroyed by them. So the idea that an animal, especially a bird, could intentionally use fire felt impossible. Animals were thought to act on instinct alone. React, flee, survive. Not plan, not experiment, not use tools that could destroy them. And in most cases, that belief was correct. When fires break out, chaos follows. Smoke blocks vision. Heat drains energy. Escape routes disappear quickly. One wrong move means death. That's why fire has always been one of nature's most feared forces. But fear does not affect all creatures equally. Some animals don't see fire as a wall. They see it as a signal. Smoke becomes a marker. Heat becomes information. Flames mean opportunity. This is where the story changes. Because in the middle of destruction, when everything else is running, a few predators don't leave. They arrive. They circle the smoke calmly. They watch how the flames move. They wait for the perfect moment. These animals didn't evolve to escape fire, they evolved to understand it. And among all of them, none are more unsettling than the birds that don't just follow fires, but help create them. For decades, tales of fire-spreading birds were dismissed as folklore. Rangers would roll their eyes when Aboriginal elders spoke of birds carrying flames. Firefighters joked about arsonist hawks over campfires. Yet the stories kept appearing. Different towns, different regions, same behavior. Then, one day, the impossible was witnessed. A wildfire was burning through dry grasslands in northern Australia. Firefighters were exhausted trying to contain it. That's when they noticed movement in the sky. A lone black kite swooped down near the edge of the fire. Moments later, it rose again, with something glowing in its talons. The stick dropped into unburned grass, and a new blaze ignited. No human had touched it. No lightning had struck. The fire started miles away from the original. Eyewitnesses were stunned. The pattern repeated over and over. Birds carefully carrying embers from one patch to another. Fires seemed to leap with intelligence, spreading where they wanted, exactly when they wanted. It wasn't just one bird either. Groups of kites and falcons appeared to work in coordination. When one bird started a new fire, others would follow. It was as if the flames themselves were a signal, a map drawn in smoke, telling them where prey would appear next. Reports poured in. Firefighters, bushrangers, and local communities documented dozens of incidents. Each story seemed stranger than the last. A whistling kite dropping embers into a patch of tall grass, then hovering as wallabies fled. A brown falcon circling low over a burning edge, waiting for lizards to dart from the flames before striking. Groups of black kites appearing almost simultaneously at multiple points along a wildfire, carrying sticks with alarming precision. At first, many scientists refused to believe it. Birds couldn't possibly understand fire. Fire was unpredictable, dangerous, impossible to control. But the evidence kept stacking up. Photographs, eyewitness testimony, even video footage began to emerge. Birds were not accidentally near fires. They were intentionally using them to hunt. It was a revelation that challenged everything. Birds, once thought to be mere survivors of fire, were its masters. They weren't fleeing the flames, they were following them, calculating, planning, and using chaos as a tool. Long before scientists raised their eyebrows at reports of fire-spreading birds, Aboriginal Australians had been watching them for thousands of years. These weren't casual observations. They were part of a deep understanding of the land, passed down through generations in stories, songs, and ceremonies. Aboriginal elders speak of the firehawks not as mythical creatures, but as skilled hunters, creatures that wielded fire with purpose. In their stories, the birds were messengers of both destruction and renewal, shaping the land while securing their survival. The elders knew which species were involved, the brown falcon, black kite, and whistling kite, and described in detail how the birds carried fire from one patch of grass to another. Fire for Aboriginal Australians was never just a threat, it was a tool. They practiced controlled burns, a method known as fire stick farming, to manage the land, flush out prey, and protect communities. They observed how the firehawks behaved around natural wildfires, recognizing that these birds could amplify the effects of fire to hunt more efficiently. In a sense, humans and birds were using fire in parallel, each in their own way. When European settlers arrived, they dismissed these stories as folklore. Birds don't understand fire, they said. It's impossible. Yet Aboriginal knowledge persisted. Generations of careful observation had documented what science was only beginning to notice. The fascinating part is that Indigenous Australians didn't just see the birds' actions, they understood the consequences. They knew that when firehawks carried embers, fires could spread rapidly, reshaping the land and forcing prey into the open. This knowledge influenced land management strategies, guiding how controlled burns were conducted to reduce the risk of catastrophic fires. It took modern science thousands of years to catch up. In 2016 and 2017, researchers began to document what Indigenous communities had long known. They filmed birds carrying burning sticks, tracked their movements, and witnessed firsthand the creation of new fires from old ones. What was once considered myth became evidence. This intersection of indigenous knowledge and modern science is profound. It demonstrates that observation, patience, and respect for nature can reveal truths that take centuries for others to recognize. Watching a firehawk hunt is like seeing nature's most daring predator in action. Unlike most birds, these raptors don't simply flee from flames. They follow the fire, learning its movements, understanding its edges, and using it to their advantage. Here's how it works. The firehawk hovers near the edge of an active wildfire. Its sharp eyes scan the scorched earth, searching for prey. Insects scuttle, lizards dart, and small mammals freeze in panic. The bird waits, not in fear, but in patience. It studies the flames, the wind, and the smoke. Every detail matters. The bird identifies a smoldering stick or ember. It's careful. It doesn't grab flames directly. Too much heat could harm it. Just enough to carry a spark safely is perfect. The firehawk lifts the ember in its talons or beak. Then it flies to unburned grassland, patches of dry grass where prey hides. The flight requires precision. Too high and the ember cools. Too low and the bird risks catching fire. At the right moment, the bird drops the ember onto the dry grass. Instantly, a new fire ignites. Smoke rises. Flames spread. Animals that were safely hidden now run into the open. The firehawk swoops down with timing and grace. Lizards dart for cover. Insects scatter in every direction. Small mammals zigzag in panic. The bird strikes, feeding on the chaos that it created. The fire does the flushing work, making hunting almost effortless. Researchers have described this behavior as tool use. It's a rare skill in the animal kingdom, usually reserved for primates like chimpanzees or clever corvids. But here is a bird, using one of the planet's most dangerous elements as a weapon, intentionally, repeatedly, and successfully. Even more astonishing, firehawks are often social hunters. Groups of birds coordinate their movements, communicating with high-pitched calls. One bird drops an ember while another circles low to catch fleeing prey. The fire itself becomes a hunting partner, an extension of the bird's strategy. Every action shows intention. This isn't instinct alone. It's learning, observation, and planning in real time. The firehawks adapt to the fire, the wind, and the prey's behavior. At first, even scientists struggled to believe what was being reported. Birds spreading fire. The idea seemed impossible. Fire is unpredictable, chaotic, and deadly. How could an animal possibly understand it well enough to use it as a tool? Early skeptics assumed accidents. Maybe birds just got too close to flames and carried burning sticks by chance. Maybe wildfires were unpredictable, and it only looked like the birds were planning anything. But the evidence told a different story. Eyewitness accounts recorded over decades showed patterns. Multiple species, the black kite, whistling kite, and brown falcon, were repeatedly seen carrying embers from one patch of grass to another. Fires were starting far from natural sources. Small groups of birds would appear at multiple points, almost as if coordinating. The coincidences became too many, too precise to ignore. Then came the studies. In 2016 and 2017, researchers documented over 20 separate incidents where birds carried burning sticks into unburned grass. The timing, the accuracy, and the consistency across different regions proved that this was not random. Scientists began to use a new term: purposeful fire propagation. This wasn't just instinct. Instinct tells an animal to avoid danger. Instinct doesn't tell it to use danger as a weapon. Firehawks were doing something far more complex. They were observing cause and effect. They were calculating risk. They were turning destruction into strategy. Some even proposed that this could represent cultural learning among birds. Young firehawks may watch older birds, learning when to grab a burning stick, where to drop it, and how to hunt using the fire's chaos. Humans have long considered themselves the only masters of fire. We tamed it, cooked with it, and even used it to hunt. Fire stick farming, an ancient Aboriginal technique, was practiced for thousands of years to flush out kangaroos, wallabies, and other prey. Grasslands were intentionally burned, and humans waited with spears or traps as the animals fled. Now imagine the firehawks doing something remarkably similar, but without spears. The process is surprisingly strategic. The birds observe which areas hold the most insects, lizards, or small mammals hiding in dry grass or underbrush. By carrying embers to unburned patches, the firehawks create new fire fronts. The flames force the prey out of hiding, concentrating them into the open. Once the animals are exposed, the birds swoop down, striking with speed and precision. The fire has done the heavy lifting, creating panic and confusion. Firehawks often move in groups, spreading flames over wider areas. The fire becomes a tool for coordinated hunting, almost like a human hunting party. What makes this strategy so extraordinary is that it's intentional and repeated. The birds are not experimenting randomly. They have learned how fire spreads, how wind affects it, and how to maximize the number of prey flushed from hiding. Each action is calculated. Scientists are amazed because this behavior crosses the boundary from instinct into problem-solving intelligence. Most animals flee fire. Most birds avoid it entirely. The firehawks do the opposite. They use fire to manipulate their environment, much like humans once did. Firehawks don't just hunt. They reshape entire ecosystems. Each ember they drop, each fire they extend alters the balance of life across vast stretches of grassland and forest. What might seem like destruction is actually a force that influences which plants grow, which animals thrive, and how the landscape recovers. Consider this. When firehawks spread a fire, they create a patchwork of burned and unburned areas. Small mammals, reptiles, and insects are forced out of hiding, making them more vulnerable to predators. At the same time, some species escape into the unburned patches, creating opportunities for other predators. The result is a cascade of ecological interactions triggered by the birds' actions. Plants also respond. Some species have evolved to thrive after fire. Seeds germinate faster, and certain shrubs and grasses regrow stronger. Fires remove old, decaying vegetation, clearing space for new growth. In this way, firehawks indirectly support plant regeneration, ensuring that their hunting grounds remain productive in the long term. Even other predators benefit. Kangaroos, wallabies, and marsupial carnivores often exploit burned areas to find exposed prey. Bears, raccoons, and other animals in different parts of the world have been observed using natural fires to hunt, showing that leveraging fire is an ancient survival tactic across species, but no other species uses it as deliberately as firehawks. The bird's influence extends to water sources and shelter locations. Animals fleeing the flames may move toward rivers or burrows, shifting population densities temporarily. This, in turn, affects which plants are grazed or trampled, which predators have access to food, and even which insects pollinate flowers. A single fire can ripple across an ecosystem for months. For thousands of years, humans have shared the land with firehawks, sometimes unknowingly, sometimes with deep understanding. Indigenous Australians long observed the birds' mastery of fire, weaving their behavior into stories, lessons, and survival strategies. Firehawks were never seen as villains. They were teachers, showing how fire could be used intelligently, strategically, and effectively. Even in recorded history, humans have occasionally exploited birds' fire-spreading abilities. Ancient accounts tell of pigeons or sparrows used to ignite fires during sieges, carrying small embers to rooftops. While not the same as firehawks hunting in the wild, it demonstrates a rare moment where humans recognized that some creatures could manipulate fire intentionally. Today, as wildfires grow more frequent and severe due to climate change, firehawks remind us that nature is smarter and more adaptable than we often realize. Their intelligence is not human, but it is profound. By understanding fire, these birds have become not just survivors, but masters of one of the world's most destructive forces. Watching a firehawk in action is awe-inspiring. It is a predator, a strategist, a teacher, and a force of nature. It shows us that intelligence doesn't only belong to humans. Sometimes it takes wing, soars above the flames, and changes the rules of survival forever. So next time you see smoke rising on the horizon, look up. The firehawks may be circling above, turning destruction into opportunity, chaos into a meal, and fear into control. In a world full of surprises, these birds are a living reminder that nature's brilliance often burns quietly, waiting for us to notice. And that is it for the story. Which part of the Firehawk story fascinated you the most? Let us know in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this journey into the wild, make sure to leave a like and subscribe for more amazing stories from nature. Thank you for watching.